Hello, my name is Victoria with Basic City Apothecary. I just wanted to go over, kind of do a beginner's video on how to get started when you want to get into herbalism. I personally got into herbalism from a culinary aspect originally, and then I started to delve into the medicinal aspect, and that ultimately led into the spiritual aspect of herbalism. So it's a multifaceted path for me, and I just wanted to share some of the resources that helped get me started on my journey. First and foremost, I'm going to share some books. This book that I'm about to share with you, it's called The Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine, and it's by Andrew Chevalier. And this is what it looks like. Completely invaluable resource. This starts out giving you the history of herbalism from ancient times. It's about the first, I would say, quarter of the book is a history lesson, essentially, which is super fascinating. And then it leads into a literal encyclopedia of herbs. Almost any herb that you could possibly think of is covered in this book, down to the key constituents, the energies that it emits, uses for it, traditionally speaking. Sometimes they include a little bit of a recipe and how to incorporate it into a tincture or salve. And they also share the precautions associated with each herb. Most of the herbs have pictures, not all of them do. It's just an amazing, amazing resource. And then as far as the medicinal aspect goes, you need this. It's the Modern Herbal Dispensatory, a medicine making guide. And it's by Thomas Easley and Stephen Horn. As you can see, I've got little tabs for all kinds of things in here. It does go into actual herbs themselves here at the end of the book that you don't see any of my tabs in, and that's because I don't use this book as a reference for herbs. I tend to go to my Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine for that. But they have solvent charts, which basically is the alcohol content necessary to extract the constituents that you want to extract from the herbs that you're working with at the time. It's got potency charts, dosaging information, basic recipes on how to make an alcohol tincture, a glycerite, a salve, honey, syrups, teas. It goes on and on and on. There is so much information in that book. And you could look for it online, I'm sure, and do your own research that way, but to have it all compiled in one super easy book to just grab and essentially make anything to your heart's content, this book tells you everything that you need to know. And then the other thing that I ended up purchasing after I got these books and started reading through them is a notebook. This is a fancy notebook. You do not have to get a fancy notebook like I got. A little dollar notebook from the dollar store does the same thing. It's a piece of paper. I'm just extra and wanted a pretty book to deal with. So in my book, I've listed like the key constituents: phenols, volatile oils, saponins, coumarins, flavonoids, tannins, glycosides, bitters. So basically the constituents of a plant and what those constituents actually mean. So when I'm looking in my Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine book at specific herbs that I want to work with, I can then reference this to see what exactly that means until you get super comfortable with the terminology. I also use this to write my own tinctures in. Very rarely do I follow a recipe online. I tend to reference the Modern Herbal Dispensatory book as far as a basic guideline for my tinctures, salves, glycerites, etc. And then I come up with my own formula based off of the herbs that I'm comfortable working with. And then also in here I have pages where I've just written down information about certain. It's a notebook. Anything herbal related that I'm learning, whether I've come across it online, it's in one of my books, I write it down if I think it's something I'm going to need to know at a later date. And this is an excellent thing to have on hand. You can just grab your notebook. I keep this with me when I'm doing my tinctures and salves, so I can write down my own recipes as far as the ingredients, how much of the ingredients, and then I keep a notes section at the bottom so I can take notes when the tincture's actually in use. What can I change next time? Is the flavor terrible and I need to work on that? Which, speaking of that, when it comes to herbalism, it's not supposed to taste great all the time. You don't drink pharmaceutical cough syrup because it tastes delightful. And so when you're working with herbs for medicine, it's kind of the same principle applies there. They're not always going to taste wonderful. It's the effects that you want from them, not necessarily the flavor. They do have some that taste excellent, and there's herbs that override some of the horrible tasting ones. But for the most part, just keep in the back of your mind, it's not supposed to be delightful. Unless you're making a syrup, which is full of honey and sugar, and that is delightful. And then last but not least, I have me a binder. And in this binder, I start out with my Materia Medica. So what I did is I made these reference sheets, and it's alphabetized based off of all of the herbs that I currently work with. And then I just go through, and it's got the botanical name, common name, the family, the native region. The native region is important to me because I like to grow herbs. And so I like to have a reference as to what region these herbs are native to, so I can recreate that environment to grow them here. In my greenhouse, in my shed, in my kitchen, whatever I need to do to accommodate the environment that herb is used to growing in from a seed. I also have, so a lot of the information in here, I have a tab for my greenhouse where I keep references to the herbs that I have growing out there, how they're doing, the watering schedule, the fertilization schedule, which we actually use our own compost pile for that. I also, what I do is once I've finalized recipes that I've written in my handy dandy notebook, I type them up because I'm obsessed with organization, and I'll show you my apothecary here in a minute, so and you'll be able to see that. And so I like when things are finalized for me to be able to type them, so it's a neat, tidy copy that I can reference here in my binder. So I've got a section for tinctures, salves, and it's just basically a reference for everything that's finished and complete. My Materia Medica, I did choose to print those and leave the parts for me to write in the information. One, because I find that writing things down helps me to memorize them a lot easier. And two, so I can continue to add to it. Some things are meant to be sloppy, I guess. At least that's what I tell myself in my brain. So that makes it easy for me to write on it and not panic because it was typed and now I have to write on it. Other things, starting out, a great resource to get a nice little stock of herbs to try to figure out the herbs that you're going to like working with. I recommend getting on Etsy. Check out the reviews. There's many shops that sell sampler packages of herbs where you'll get like small little 2x3 baggies of each herb, and it's enough to play around with so you can figure out what you like working with best. That's what I personally did. I ordered from an Etsy shop called Coven66, and when I did that, I got all of the little bags of herbs, and then slowly as I started to make things, I started to realize what I was using a lot of, what I wasn't really using, but it's nice to have on hand. So the ones that I realized that I was going to use more of, I found an Etsy shop called Schmerbel's Herbals, and they sell bulk amounts of herbs, so you can get ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce. I mean, you can get essentially as much as you need. The prices are affordable, and let me tell you, the quality of those herbs when they got here was phenomenal. Other things that I like to have on hand from the get-go. So I ordered my sampler set of herbs. I also ordered these jars. They came in a pack of 24... maybe 48, I'm lying. It came in a pack of 48 on Amazon for like 25 bucks because it has the little lid and everything. And then I printed my own labels. This is just sticker paper. and I typed them up, all of the herbs that I had, and I just popped those bad boys on there, put clear ones on the lid, so no matter which direction I'm looking at them, I can see what I'm working with. These are the 2-ounce jars on Amazon. I also, so originally I ordered a ton of these 2-ounce dropper bottles. Turns out 2-ounce dropper bottles don't get you very far. I had 24 of them, and I used them up within like the first 2 tinctures. One, I've since learned how to make smaller batches of things. 2, I then went and bought, these are the amber 4-ounce bottles. These are the 8-ounce bottles. These are not dropper bottles. I like to use these as my refill bottles for my dropper bottles. Also for things that you take by a spoon as opposed to using the dropper. And then these are the 4-ounce bottles without droppers as well. Lovely, lovely things to have on hand so when you're straining your tinctures. Speaking of straining tinctures, I started with cheesecloth. Cheesecloth, when you're dealing with oils especially, you can't clean that. I mean, I guess you can, but no, it's too much. And honestly, it's more eco-friendly, in my opinion, to get a fine mesh strainer. You can strain right through the fine mesh strainer, and you typically don't have to worry about any little pieces of plant and such getting through. So I highly recommend that. One way I do a lot of my tinctures, my alcohol-based ones especially, is I just do cold tinctures, where you pack the jar with the herbs, you fill it with your solvents, typically 50-50 alcohol, water, at least 100 proof alcohol and distilled water, or 60-40. You don't want anything less than 50-50 though, in order for the preservative actions of the alcohol to take effect. When it comes to my glycerites, I like to do what they call closed simmering. This is my go-to jar for that. It's a wide mouth jar. It holds 2 cups. When I said I learned how to make smaller batches of things, this handy dandy guy right here helps me with that. So basically it's the canning jar. Ring, lid, jar. Pretty handy because it has the milliliter measurements, and then it also has the cup measurements on the side of it, and ounces as well. But anyways, most of that I eyeball things. I don't do a whole lot of super duty measuring, with the exception of the herbs that I'm putting in there, and then just kind of eyeballing the liquid amounts. But what this does, so you would fill it with the dry herbs. You would cover the herbs with the vegetable glycerin at least halfway, and then water, distilled water, the other halfway. Cover this bad boy up. Double boil it. If you do not have a double boiler, which I do not, what you can do is get a thick washcloth or a kitchen towel and fold it. Stick it in the in the bottom of your pan before you fill it with water. About halfway. You do not want it to cover your jar. You only want it to come to about right here. You don't even need it that far. The whole point of double boiling is so that your tincture or glycerite is not in direct contact with the heat. It's getting the heat from the water, and you can control that a lot easier. Because you don't want to get things too hot, and then you essentially burn out the properties of the plant. One reason that we keep these closed while that's happening is to keep all of the good things in the jar. You don't want anything evaporating out. I'll go over that more in future videos when you actually see me make a glycerite. And as far as, I can give you a quick tour really quick. So I have just a small little area. It's small now. It grew significantly very quickly. So this right here, this is one of those cube cabinets. I bought them at Lowe's. They come with the 3 per one, and I have 2 of them stacked. And this is where I keep like finished things, some of my ingredients where them being in the sunlight, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. My mortar and pestle. These are essential oils in here. I have not been able to make my own yet, so I buy them. And then I keep all of my empties down here, and then I have a bin that has my ingredients, my shea butters, my vegetable glycerin, distilled water, vinegar, things of that nature. And then I got this cabinet for free off of the Facebook Marketplace. And this is where I store my herbs. They are alphabetized. I try not to be too crazy with it, but I found that it's much easier to have them alphabetized so I can just find the shelf that has the thing that I need at the moment. And then up here is just my little, like to keep things in the amber jars that are the cold tinctures or cold glycerites. They're dated, so I know they're dated for the day that I made them, not the day that they need to be strained. Because I can do math, so I just choose to put the day that I made them. We swirl them every day for 4 to 6 weeks and strain them, and then we have our medicine. And then I just have my little peaceful incense burner. It's a backflow one, so the incense actually ends up looking like a waterfall, which is super cool. Anything to set the aesthetic for when I'm in here making tinctures, making salves. I feel like it's a great idea to actually have a whole aura set, just putting good energy into everything that I'm doing. So anyways, I just wanted to introduce myself, let you guys know some helpful things that I used when I was getting started in herbalism. Give you a little bit of my story about what got me into herbalism and where that's led me on this journey. And from here on out, I will continue to share videos more specifically about making the individual tinctures and salves. Just know that I am not a doctor. Anything that I am showing you how to do is for your own educational references only. They're not meant to diagnose, treat, cure any diseases. You should definitely consult with a medical professional in regards to that, and you should always consult with a medical professional before taking herbal tinctures and salves and incorporating that into your lifestyle, because some of these are very strong and they do interact with prescription medications and contradict them. So you will definitely want to talk to your medical team before you start incorporating any of these into your lifestyle. Peace and love, guys, and I will be back soon with another video.